people could face criminal charges for filing false tax returns, and tax scams are to blame. The scammers, many of whom broadcast their services on social media, are promising large refunds by tricking people into filing for tax credits that they do not qualify for. Now, the IRS says thousands of filers are being investigated and will have to prove their eligibility. Joining us to talk about it, CPA Lucy Petry. Glad to have you here on the Factor Uncensored. So what are some of these tax credits, first of all, that people are filing for because they're told to by influencers that they should not be filing for? If you're an employee of a company, for example.
Well, a very common credit that is being abused right now is the family and sick leave credit. This credit was intended for self-employed individuals who could not work during the pandemic. So a lot of employees, individuals now, are filing as self-employed individuals so they can qualify for those credits when they were not, in fact, self-employed individuals.
When they worked for a company.
Exactly.
Well, don't they think the IRS would figure that out by the Social Security number, which is your blueprint of the world?
Yeah, the IRS has a lot to deal with and is seriously understaffed. So they're really struggling to keep up with all the fraud that is happening right now.
And what are some of the other cases, other credits that may be out there that people should not file for if they don't qualify?
We're seeing an increase in the fuel tax credit. Look, 99.9% of the filers should not qualify for this credit. It's a credit.
And what is the credit again?
It's the fuel credit.
Fuel.
Fuel credit.
Okay.
This credit is intended for those who keep fuel for aviation purposes or agricultural purposes. But it's a huge credit, and sometimes the taxpayer may not understand what is on their tax return and just see a large refund and not understand that they are applying for a credit to which they do not qualify.
Well, you know you're not flying a plane, right? You're
true.
not storing fuel for any type of aviation, so...
Right. So this may come from a preparer who may include this credit, and the taxpayer may not understand what they're signing, or they just flat out cheat on the tax return.
Now, when you're preparing your tax form and you sign the document saying, under perjury, I say this is totally true.
Yeah.
But if a preparer is doing it, but they're still going to come after you,
absolutely.
How does that work?
Yeah, so you are signing under penalty of perjury that the information that is contained on this tax return is true and correct.
Yes.
Even if somebody else prepares it, you are still responsible for the information that is being sent to the government.
So you can't play dumb in this situation.
No, you can't. You cannot. Now, there is a type of fraud that is also on the rise, and that is preparer fraud. That is where the preparer gives you a copy of a tax return that is prepared correctly, but they file something else and keep the difference, keep the money, keep the refund.
So the preparers are doing that?
The preparers are also committing fraud. Yeah, so...
How often does that happen?
This happens more often
and explain
than
that to the viewer again.
Yeah.
You know, if you take your tax return to a preparer, and that preparer does it for you, they will give you a copy, but then make another copy, and then get a refund and keep it, or more of a refund and keep it, and don't tell you anything.
Don't tell you anything.
Wow.
So you may find out later when you get a letter from the IRS finding out that you filed a fraudulent return in the eyes of the IRS, but you had no idea that that happened. And it takes a lot of time to clean that up and to show to the government that you never got that money and that you did not sign that fraudulent tax return.
And really quick, if you have filed something and you know I'm not supposed to get this aviation fuel credit, can you file an amendment and say, look, I changed my mind, or should you just shut the hell up at this point?
Well, you need to come clean. Come clean, file a corrected, amended tax return, and unfortunately, unpopular opinion, you have to pay the money back.
Oh, all right.
No.
Lucy, thank you for joining us here on The Factor. We appreciate your advice. But that tax preparer stealing money from their clients is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's
thank
crazy.
you. We need to follow that up, Sonora.
You